Good morning. My name is Shirley Burch, and my friend and philosophy colleague Elizabeth Edmonds has asked me to speak on just this day to say not a few words, just to say words from Shakespeare that might be conducive to quietness and meditation, which of course is the point of just this day, a day dedicated to that quietude out of all the busyness of our lives. And the brief was not only to speak or present some words by William Shakespeare, but also to say something of one's own journey to stillness. And I would say it started rather late for me, really, when I joined the school in 1958. Up to that time, it had been uneventful in one sense, but out of the mouth and during early childhood would come some questions and thoughts about God, although I don't remember anyone ever saying anything to me about God. But unpremeditated and unrehearsed, I do remember the day I went to ask my mother what happens when you die, and not being at all happy about the answer, and later wondering myself how God had made us. And then one evening, one lovely spring evening in Edinburgh at bedtime, asking my mother to teach me a prayer. And education and life generally was conventional, but during the years at my Methodist primary school, I certainly enjoyed the strong and energetic hymns of the Methodist faith. And in the Anglican Church, my secondary education, the blessedness was there in the psalms and the canticles of the Anglican service. Glorious words, and of course the collects. And during that time, it was a daily procedure for the headmistress to come up to the platform at the start of the daily assembly, and she would look at us all and she would bow her head and she would say, "Let us remember the presence of God." And her reverence and devotion and those words have stayed with me ever since. But the touch of real inner stillness in a life that was just developing into journalism and later into teaching came when, quite by chance, but probably one of those moments, when I walked into the kitchen at a party one Saturday evening in 1958, and heard a girl say, "Do you realize we are never in the present moment? We are either rehearsing something from the past, like it didn't happen, or from the future, like it isn't going to happen." And I went up to her and asked her, "Where did you learn to think like that?" Because for me, it was the most interesting thing I'd ever heard anyone say. And at that stage of my life, learning to think was a premium. I had come out of school to take up journalism, and my first journalistic assignment showed me that nothing in my education had prepared me for actually seeing and understanding what I was looking at. So I was looking for something. So it's no surprise that the next Monday evening, I was walking up a little back street behind the Haymarket Theatre for a 12-week introduction to philosophy. And there, on that first evening, we were introduced to what now would be called mindfulness, but has ever since in the school been called the awareness exercise, where you become aware of yourself sitting, of the play of the senses, of the great space around you, and right out, you might say, to a very expanded universal view, where you sat quietly and became aware of this. And this was a revelation, a life-changing revelation. It took me out of years of teenage dreaming into the present moment, and I knew the difference, and that made all the difference. So you might say something had been awakened at that time. And then 2 years later, the Maharishi arrived in England in his journey around the world, to present meditation, to offer it to a culture, the Western culture, which was largely not given to meditation as a practice as it had been in the Eastern world. And that again brought a new dimension into one's life. That was, one can only call it transformative, because of course meditation is a journey to stillness, your own inner stillness. The years followed there in practice and good company, and allowed, I would say, possibly the most deep and most profound experience of stillness when meditating, sitting beside the coffin of my very beloved stepmother. It was an experience of being dropped. It seemed literally dropped into a deep, deep stillness and silence, which prevailed for quite some time. And having experienced that, I think any real experience is like this. You know it exists. You know it exists, and you know that it exists in yourself, that it is accessible. So that was again a very awakening moment. And there have been other experiences of stillness, greatly helped by being in England, where, well, not only England, but where selfless and meditative work have gone on. I'm thinking in particular of walking across the lawn of the old priory, it's now extant, at Avebury, of the feeling around St. Cuthbert's little island, just off Lindisfarne, of the atmosphere at Iona. And of course, in Ireland, just an hour out of Dublin, is a whole sacred sense of country where the New Barrow Grange, 5,000 years old, a remarkable piece of engineering, the silence and the stillness is so great that you quaff it. It's just like breathing it in. It's remarkable. And true words, I have found, also have the power to bring one to stillness. And the two passages or sonnets that I'm going to read this morning will have, I hope, that effect. They are, as I understand it, Shakespeare's own reflection and meditation on the nature and quality of God. And although they don't follow in sequence in the range of the sonnets, to me they are very definitely linked. And the first one I'd like to read is Sonnet 53, where he's asking, "What is your substance? Whereof are you made? That millions of strange shadows on you tend, since everyone hath, everyone, one shade, and you, but one, can every shadow lend. The scribe Adonis, and the counterfeit is poorly imitated after you. On Helen's cheek all art of beauty set, and you in Grecian tiles are painted new. Speak of the spring and foison of the year. The one doth shadow of your beauty show, the other as your bounty doth appear. And you in every blessed shape we know, in all external grace, you have some part, But you, like none you, for constant heart. And he goes on in Sonnet 18. Should I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou ownest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Thank you.